to show you this thing. I mean, we've been talking about it in class, but my creative fundamentals class. And I just wanted to make a summary video because I don't want anyone to be confused. Here's this really cool way of practicing your voice leading with triads. This is where I'm just doing a cycle of a third. According to Schillinger, it's descending thirds in a major key. Mick Goodrick calls it cycle 6, as in ascending sixths. Same chords. You get a 1 chord, then a 6 chord, then a 4 chord, then a 2 chord, then a 7 chord, then a 5 chord, then a 3 chord, and back to 1. Schillinger calls that a positive, one of the positive progressions, in that it aims to resolve. It's going from tension to resolution. And anyway, I think it sounds really neat when you practice your descending thirds. Instead of going like this, that would be the 4 chord. That's according to classical harmony and voice leading, it's a no-no because you get something called parallel intervals, where parallel fifths, parallel fourths, stuff like that. Now, what Schillinger does is he comes up with this scheme where he says you have to alternate the inversions. You can either do it clockwise or counterclockwise, combination of them. So say you start on a root position. Instead of going to root position 6, you go to either a first inversion or a second inversion 6. If you go to a first inversion, you only have to move one note. Okay, so it's pretty convenient. And when you go to a 4 chord, again, you only have to move one note. And when you go to a 2 chord, again, only one note. Now we talked about this cycle with the 7th chords, but here it is with the triads. Now when you're doing it with 7th chords, it kind of moves down the neck when you only move one note at a time. When you're doing it with triads, when you go, this is called clockwise. You go from root position to first inversion to second inversion. Root, first, second, root, first, second, okay? So say we do it in B, we go root, first inversion on the 6th chord, second inversion on the 4 chord, then back to root position, but now you're on the 2 chord, okay? And then 7, root position, 5, second inversion, 3, root position, and then when you make it back to 1, you happen to be in the first inversion, you can keep it going, and so on. Now, what I do here, you might what I did at the beginning of the video, I did it in 3 keys. I changed keys every 4 chords, and I did it with the giant steps keys. You know, the key of B, the key of G, and the key of E flat. I think those keys sound really, really cool. You may have heard me talk about the pitch class inversion stuff. That's a reason why they sound good. So yeah, I start on the lowest one, key of B. Then I went to the G minor, then E, and then C sharp minor, and then I switched to. So I finished those 4 chords on the second inversion in this case, and then the closest, and then I switched to another 2 chord, but then I'm going to change to the key of G. The closest one is root position. So it's still following that clockwise pattern. Root, first, second, root position, and then the next key it's the first inversion. Does that make it? Did I get that right? Yeah. So actually I started with second, root, first, second, root. Yeah. I may have messed that up when I described it a second ago. But anyway, here it is written out with the theory of it. So here's the triad inversions in B. The 1, the 6, the 4, 2, and then when I switch to G, it's just another 2 chord. 2, 7, 5, 3. Yeah, so you got to go through a lot of them to get back home again. You may notice these red arrows. That's when I just shift down an octave because it just keeps going up, and I just like the sound of them on these low strings. G, E flat, back to B, then G, to E flat, and now, oh yeah, they'll move just like when you're in the same key, they only move one note at a time. When you change keys, they move two notes at a time, unless you go from a 7 chord to a 7 chord. In this case, it goes, here's a first inversion of a 7 chord in the key of E flat. Looks like a minor, it looks like an F minor 6, but it's actually a first inversion of a D diminished triad. And then when you switch to a 7 chord in the key of B, you have to move 3 notes. So it's nice voice leading, right? And then 5 chord, and then a 3 chord, and then here's back to a 1 chord again. Same inversion that we started. And so I'm going to go down an octave. But now the pattern starts again, but the key of G, it's starting with G. So you notice it's right here. Okay, so there's going to be like 3 octave jumps through this whole part. You know? Now, this particular exercise happens to be the opening etude in my book, Voicing Modes. Now, it's not like super, you know, obvious that it's an Ionian, but I was like, what can you do that's interesting that's just in a major scale, you know, when everybody, you know, is probably trying to look for something kind of advanced or whatever. So I kind of overachieved on this one, and it might be a little bit daunting if you get the book Voicing Modes. It's this opening piece is kind of really not what the whole book is about. But anyway, Anyway, yeah, check that out. And oh yeah, I should mention that as complex as this is, there's only 9 chord shapes. There's only 9 chord shapes in this whole thing. There's 3 major shapes, 3 minor shapes, and 3 diminished shapes. There's no augmented in the major scale. Did you know that? Augmented's cool, but it doesn't exist in a major scale. All right, so here's 3 major shapes. Here's G. I like it. I should have mentioned I like it on the E string, D string, and G string, and that's why I play it like this instead of like this. I like it to keep each voice on the same string. It just because it has a nice ring to it. You can kind of slide nice. You know. I kind of mentioned that before in some other videos, but now when you go to a minor, same thing. I'm doing it like this. Same string set. You could do like that if you want to. You might be easier for you to visualize that. But I just like keeping them on the same string set. But there's nothing wrong with putting it like that. And then the diminished shapes go like this. I'll do it in A diminished. It's a bit stretchy because, again, I'm just keeping it on that same string set. Again, you can do it like that if you want to. There's a flat 5 at the minor third. Do it like that. And then the first inversion, like I said before, it looks like a minor 6 chord. And then here's that one. Now, diminished triads are I think more useful than they're typically given credit because you can do some really neat voice leading stuff with them. And jazz guitar players tend to put all diminished chords in a blender. If you look at the way classical music is, they'll spell the diminished chord like the way it's supposed to, and they don't just like mash them all together. Like if it's a 4 in harmonic minor, that flat 5 in the diminished chord, like say I'm doing a 4 chord in E harmonic minor, I'm kind of getting, this has nothing to do with the video, but I just want to say this. E harmonic minor, you can play a diminished chord on the 4 chord, but that's a D sharp. That's not an E flat, you know what I mean? So this A diminished 7 chord, it's only N harmonically equivalent to a diminished chord. It's actually a minor 6 with a sharp 4, which is the same, sounds the same as a diminished chord. That's one of the reasons why diminished chords are so confusing, is because you can spell them in so many different ways, but there's really only one diatonic correct diminished 7 chord in harmonic minor, and that's on the 7 chord. But you can play it diminished on the 2, you can play it diminished on the 4, and the 6 as well, as in the flat 6. Totally not related to this lesson, but anyway, cycle of a third, okay? It's fun to solo over too. Put it in a looper here. So that's just 3 keys, you know, the key of B, G. Anyway, you can practice your giant steps keys and be a hit with the ladies. Okay, see ya.